places. Lowest temperatures of 6 to 9 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Now with same-day withdrawals to your Visa debit card.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should there be an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
I have sympathy, listeners, for the plight of a print man like Dan McDonnell. He is typing furiously alongside me. Deadline fast approaching. It's been a big day. Declan Rice has made sure of that, Dan, and you are under pressure.
Yeah, getting there. But, there's words to be written. There's other stuff going on in the world as well. So,
no, there's not that.
There is. Factually, there is other things going on in the world. But, in our world, I suppose this is the main topic. But
how many pages of Declan Rice coverage can I look forward to tomorrow when I open my Irish Independent?
I'm trying to figure out.
2 dozen?
2 dozen, a bit strong. I'd say 4 to 5 anyway, by the looks of it. Okay. So I wouldn't obviously just be doing everything on it, so I see there's other stuff in there. So there's just timing and everything. Like, a new League of Ireland season coming on Friday, people would have had pieces probably ready to go related to that. In fact, I know for a fact they would have, and then all of a sudden 4 o'clock in the afternoon you just have to sort of reshape everything to deal with what is a massive story. Now, in a way, I have to admit, like we talked about it earlier on, I sort of feel a bit of relief as well as everything too, that it's also finally over, because it was hanging over us for a long period of time. Like, hugely disappointed with how it's ended and that he won't play for Ireland, and that's a massive blow. But it was sort of there the whole time. In fact, any coverage of Mick McCarthy's Ireland to date, that's been there. It was a question when he was appointed, it was a question at his press conference. It was the first question when he was over last month for the soccer writers' dinner. Okay, it's not what we wanted, but there's a sense of finality now at last. It's like, okay, let's get on with it. But it still leaves a sort of a sour taste to some degree, and I assume that pain will linger for some time.
Meanwhile, at Wembley, Spurs 1, Dortmund 0. That is the big news from the last 2-3 minutes or so. Who else but Son? He's having quite the season. 16 goals this season. He's freshly back from the Asian Cup, and he's scored 3 goals, now 4 I think, since his return. He's having a remarkable season, and it was a really, really good goal as well. The story of the first half is that Dortmund were on top. They had the better chances. Jadon Sancho was exceptionally good. My first time really seeing him in 90 minutes, watching him closely like this, or 45 minutes, and he was the star of the first half. He's the real deal. And there was talk that maybe Vertonghen, who is playing wing back for Spurs this evening, left wing back, there was talk maybe he'll drop back and give a dig out to the back three, because really Sancho was getting in on them, and Dortmund were creating some chances. And Vertonghen stayed high, and honestly, he put in just a fantastic cross for Son. Son was he was next to Zagatto, I think. He was in front of him, and then he checked back behind him, and Vertonghen just curled the ball into an area, and Son met it with... There was a touch of heel about it, but it was a brilliant volley, first time into the corner.
He's really like a top 5 Premier League player now, is he? Or he's certainly knocking on that door, big time.
As in top 5 players in the league?
Yeah, he's getting there.
Oof.
He's moving up that list. I mean, okay.
We love the guy, but he's top 10 maybe.
Well, you're talking, okay, I know the obvious ones. You can go to De Bruyne and Hazard and Aguero, okay, but he's just becoming an elite player. He's becoming hugely important to Spurs. Like, Harry Kane is Eriksen, Dele Alli, but he's as important as those players, really. I mean, we've seen that when
16 goals,
the fear over him going away. Yeah. I mean, certainly he's probably the shout for the best Asian player there ever has been in the Premier League. I mean, Park Ji-sung is the obvious one that springs to mind, but he's sort of got to a level now that's, I mean, when you consider the sort of fuss that accompanied Kagawa and certain other recruits, from that neck of the woods, and there's obviously massive commercial value because of the markets and stuff, and but he is the real deal. Yeah, he's a real deal player.
No, he really is. Heung-min Son, 26 years of age. He's at a really good age now, and he's been great all season. it's funny, on CoCom there, Robbie Savage on BT was saying, is he the most underrated player in the Premier League? He's not anymore.
He's getting to that stage where he's moving beyond underrated to just...
Isn't that the way Paul Scholes was underrated for a while?
Yeah.
Everyone knows how good he is. He's brilliant. He's great. Full of energy, full of running. So Spurs 1-0. The feeling, I watched a bit of the BT half-time, the feeling in the studio there was that with Dele Alli and Harry Kane expected back in 3 weeks' time for the second leg, that 0-0 would be absolutely fine for Spurs, and maybe they were playing defensively with 0-0 in mind, 0-0 is often a bad result for the away team when they go back home because it's very dangerous. You can see the goal, you're in big trouble. So if Spurs can hang on here for 1-0,
yeah, they've got the skills to score away. They have a style which lends itself to scoring away, as you say. So, yeah, it's a pretty good situation to be in. But there's 35 minutes left to go in this game. So.
VAR ruled out the only goal of the game in Amsterdam. Ajax did lead Real Madrid for a few precious moments, but then VAR kicked in. It was hard to tell actually if it's for obstruction or for offside. But regardless, Ajax's goal was ruled out just before the break, so it's 0-0 at half time. Meanwhile, Kenny Cunningham standing by. Hello, sir.
Evening, lads.
All well?
All good, Joe, as always.
Okay, so we've had Gary Breen on the show already and talked a little bit about Declan Rice, so we don't have to spend ages on it, but former Republic of Ireland captain, it would be good to get your take on how the whole thing has played out.
Yeah, I haven't heard too much of it today. Obviously, I heard the news, but I didn't hear any comments attributed to Declan. It wasn't a huge surprise, Joe, in all honesty. I wouldn't say I was waiting on tenterhooks either, but it didn't come as a surprise.
Yeah. Do you feel like we've been mistreated in any way by Declan Rice?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I had the opportunity to work with Declan on the under-19s, only for a short period of time, so I saw firsthand in terms of how he interacted with the other players in the under-19 setup, in terms of how he felt being part of the international setup at underage level, what the jersey kind of meant to him, and it came across as 100% genuine to me. He absolutely loved the environment, loved his teammates, was very proud playing for Ireland and proud of his Ireland heritage, although English born. Obviously had roots in Ireland and was very proud of him. When the opportunity presented itself to play at underage level, he took it. Obviously his circumstances have changed. He found himself with a big decision to make some time ago to take the next step forward on the international stage, senior international, or to take a step back and weigh up his options. And that's what he decided to do. It's not an easy one to speak about. I've given this one really kind of dwelt over this over the past kind of years. Not just Declan. Like, very easy for me to come on really radio and kind of trash Declan to a large extent. Is that we don't need here. Who the hell does he think he is? Well, I can't put myself in Declan Rice's shoes. I genuinely think Declan's English born. I'm not particularly sure there was a particularly strong Irish element to his upbringing in terms of the Irish community where he grew up. I think the association with Ireland was his grandparents, I think. But he would have grown up English friends and probably considered himself English. And at the same time, very proud of his Irish heritage. And I think he can have both. I don't think it has to be one or the other, Joe. He can consider himself English but be very proud, whether it's a parent or a grandparent, of that association with Ireland. So I don't bemoan the fact that he's chosen to play for England, and I genuinely wish him well. He's a very talented player. He's made his decision, and good luck to him.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with a lot of that, to be honest. I suppose, to play devil's advocate for a moment, the one area you could say we'd be a bit entitled to be disappointed with is that he let it go so far, that he played 3 games for Ireland, that he sung the national anthem, that he kissed the badge, that he certainly, if you take his comments at face value, they can, they don't sit well now, but it depends how much you're going to hold an 18, 19-year-old to account.
Yeah, and I don't think that was that's my point, I suppose, Joe. I don't think that was the front. Those pictures we saw at Declan when he played those games at senior international level, albeit friendly games. I don't think that was put on. It was kind of forced. He was kind of wearing a mask. I think they were kind of genuine feelings when he spoke after the game, after those games, and he spoke about his experiences within the squad, how he was enjoying it. That came across as pretty genuine to me. But things change very quickly, and from a footballing perspective, things have changed very quickly for Declan in a very short period of time in terms of the standing in the game and the strides that he's made forward in a very short period of time. And clearly he's had his head turned, the phone's rung, he's had a conversation with Gareth Southgate, and it's made him think. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's very difficult to put myself in that situation. I was never in that kind of situation, so I'm a little bit reluctant to be overly critical of Declan. But I think you're right. My opinion on this is I don't like the situation you play international friendlies of sorts. We can still jump. For me, natural cut-off point certainly is under 21 level. You play competitive under 21 football for a country. For me, that's it. You've made your colours to the mast. Then, although that said, Joe, the talk of I heard this talk a little bit in terms of Martin missed the boat there. He should have given him, he should have forced and given him the jersey, kind of tied him in, forced him into a career with Ireland almost against his will. Yeah. I'd never subscribe to that. There's so many players who would walk over broken glass to play a minute of a game in an international jersey. So I'd never force anybody or push anybody into a situation where they're actually, forced into an allegiance to a country. So I don't buy into that one either. So I am very sympathetic in terms of the arguments for the people. I understand the kind of passion there, the kind of the disappointment and the anger in some respects. I can understand it. But kind of on reflection of the past couple of years, I suppose I wouldn't say I've changed my opinion on this, but kind of come to look at it from a slightly different angle. Particularly, I was fortunate enough, as I said, just to have a bit of an association with young from Welland that for a short period of time. Probably gave me a little bit of a kind of perspective, a little bit of a window into this particular situation. So, yeah, so for me, I don't cry over it. It's done. He's made his decision, and we move on. It's as simple as that. For me, there's a lot of good things to look forward to. I'm excited about the qualifying games coming up next month. I can't wait, to be honest with you. I think there's some really good stories there developing. So very quickly for me, the talk of Declan Rice will disappear.
Yeah, Kenny, you touched on it there. You have the insight from working in the international setup, and I think this is a difficult one. But do you think the FAI in any way should change how they think about the policy of bringing players in at under 17, under 18, under 19 level? Like, for example, there's a guy, Joe Hodge, played for Ireland under 17s today, who's played for England and Ireland in the last 6 months. Now, they are the rules. People know the rules. Yeah. But is there a discussion to be had about how the FAI approached this as an association with players?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Dan, to be honest with you, because there'll always be players. I played a number of players, kind of English-born players with that kind of Irish heritage, consider themselves Irish for the start. They're very personal things, very private things. You can never tell somebody from me what nationality they are. That's a very personal thing. They can only tell you. But I think you're right in terms of if there's a player English-born with Irish parentage who has a real passion and desire to play for Ireland, absolutely. Let's give him the opportunity. If we're convinced that's the case, you have that kind of commitment. But for me, if I'm taking your point correctly, we almost have to focus a little bit more, kind of redirect our focus in terms of players born and developed in this country, and just retarget the focus on those players a little bit, and maybe show those players a little bit more love than we have done previously. Because I'm sure there must be players playing their trade schoolboy football in Ireland, even League of Ireland level, and they pick up the paper and they hear of Ireland trailing, desperately hunting around the continent for players, any kind of connection, tenuous as may be, with the international setup, looking to bring these type of players in. And that must be very, I wouldn't say it's an insult to those players, it must be a little bit disheartening for those players to read those type of stories and feel as if maybe the association is kind of looking elsewhere, not looking more so where it should, to players here, born in this country, developed and with a born and passion to play at the highest international level for their country. And those are the players we should be assisting and helping, and as much as we can in terms of their development as players while they're in this country, and even if they take the next step forward abroad or onto the continent.
Yeah. See, I wonder to what extent there's an attitude of, well, we'll always have those players. You know, they'll be there, they'll be waiting for us. Let's go out and use underage international football to attract the James McCarthys of the world and get them involved, and then we have the best of both worlds. You know, there's certainly a cold pragmatism to it as well, I think, is the truth.
Yeah, no, yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying, all right. And like I said, I'm not suggesting whether it's English-born, Scottish-born, wherever it is. For me, if there's a real commitment on behalf of the player, a real desire to play the jersey, if those connections are strong, if there's a clear heritage there and a real determination for the player to go, he wants to go and play. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, Joe. I think if players Irish born coming through the systems and get a bit of a sense of that, what you're talking about, that really been taken for granted a little bit. We won't really have to work too hard with these players, but we should be working hard with these players because we've got some outstanding young talent in this country. Always have played at all different levels, schoolboy, amateur, League of Ireland, who need a little bit more love for me. And when I say a little bit more love, that's what I'm talking about. Need to be recognised, need to be helped, need to be developed, assisted from a coaching perspective on a load of different levels, and helped as much as we can. That's the kind of love that I'm taking about, to develop and make them even better players. Because if we make them better players and they arrive at a level, the football level, technical level, whatever you want to call it, that they're ready to make that step to the senior international team, we'll never have to worry about these players jumping ship at the last minute. We'll never have to worry about it because it won't even be an option, won't even be a decision for these players to make, because they'll be absolutely 100% committed to the cause for the very reasons that I've spoken about. So, yeah, not one or the other for me, Joe, but just a little bit more of a focus for me in terms of what we've got here already, and to appreciate it a little bit more, and to help it develop and blossom a little bit better.
Yeah, because it's funny, it's just timely. Sean Maguire's got his first goal of the season for Preston just now. A player at 21's level who you could argue was actually didn't play that much and was behind lads who at times, you know, had been parachuted in. So it's funny. But Kenny, so Declan Rice is gone now, and you say that there's reasons to be optimistic, and maybe some people had sort of mentally written Declan Rice out of the picture, but it was still lingering in the background that he could come in and be this central figure. But now that he is gone, what makes you optimistic? What can we do in that area of the pitch, and where is the hope and the optimism? I mean, Alan Brown's doing well at Preston, for example, different type of player, I know, but where is the optimism for what we can do in that area pressing ahead now?
Well, I think the optimism is in terms of where we're starting from. Mick coming in, I think it's a pretty low bar, and that's not be too. That's not a criticism at Martin or an insult, but it was a real struggle for us in terms of confidence, quality of football, which we were producing towards the tail end of Martin's tenure there. It was a really tough watch. So I'm interested in terms of tactically how Mick sees it going forward in terms of the setup of the team. You mentioned Sean Maguire there, Robinson as well. From Preston, James McCarthy. Now, I mentioned James McCarthy's name. I imagine a couple of people this will be yawning. Oh, here we go, James McCarthy. Don't underestimate the qualities that young fella possesses. He's back fit now. He needs to get games under his belt, but that lad can still be a key player for us in that central area of the pitch. Jeff Hendricks for me, Robbie Brady. There's still huge potential there. Quality, football and quality to be tapped into. We've got to get more out of those players. And if we can do it, I think we'll see a big improvement in terms of performances. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. I could individually mention the likes of Max Dockett as well, how Mick's potentially thinking of integrating him into the team, how the tactical setup, what will Mick, will he go to back four, an orthodox 4-4-2, does he see a little bit differently, maybe with a narrow midfield for a bit of natural width in the team, maybe deviate away a little bit from kind of a kind of diamond formation, which Martin persisted for quite a bit, for a very narrow in midfield, sacrificing that natural width in the team, which for me I always like to see us play with those natural wingers kind of combining with full-backs down the flanks. So I think it's always been a big asset for us. I think we're good at it, we enjoy it, and I think we've had a certain amount of success with it. So I'll be interested to see if maybe Mick leans back towards a tactical setup that incorporates more of a natural width into the team. So all those type of things for me make me excited. I can't wait for the games to come around. I'm expecting Mick to having him to make an impression very quickly with the squad when he joins up. It's not ideal for Mick. He could have had a year's preparation with this team. Unfortunately, he's going to have about 6 days. But I think the fixes have been kind for us, the first 2 fixes. It's exactly the teams that we wanted to play, considering the relatively small amount of time Mick will have with the players in terms of the build-up. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking to improvement in performance, in terms of body language of the players, a little bit of confidence returning to the team, and 6 points from those 2 games. And we can do that. We're up and running for me, and kind of the whole dynamic begins to change a little bit.
Kenny, great stuff. Before we let you go, by the way, Dan's hot take this evening has been shot down by Peter in Sandiford.
Hot cake.
Yeah. So we watched Son score his goal there for Spurs, and Dan said, do you know what? I think he's one in the top 5 players.
He's getting there.
He's in the top 5 players, maybe getting there in the Premier League. Peter in Sandiford said top 5 in Spurs, maybe. And I was just thinking, he didn't even make Kenny Cunningham's team of the year, and he's in your top 5.
He did get a mention, Joe. He did get a mention. Now, fair play to Dan. He did get a mention. I think he was up there against Hazard, wasn't it, in Sané on that left wing. But I did give him a mention. You're right, he's had an absolute wonderful season. Just his versatility as well.
He's not top 5. He's not top 5. He's not top 5.
I keep thinking of different players every time I'm saying
top 5.
I've got about Liverpool. But he's up there, end of year award considerations.
Top 5 in London, maybe.
Okay, in terms of the context of this season, top 5 this season. He's had a better season than some of the players.
I'm not sure about the top 5 people. I've got to cut you down a little bit here, Dan. The best top 5 players. For me, that's a different. Once you start factoring in defenders, bringing defenders, if you analyse him in terms of his position on the pitch, probably generally speaking, as one of those wide of a 3, and you match him up against the likes of Hazard, Sterling, those type of players, Salah, who people will be picking in those positions. I think that's where you have to stand up and make your argument for him. But you're right. I think there is a really strong argument for him in terms of his stats. You look at his numbers, assists, goals, and not just that, just in terms of quality performance, low maintenance players as well. Solskjaer, one of those players. Good trainer, no problem with the manager whatsoever, popular with his teammates, good personality as well. Kind of really, you get enough of them inside your squad and you're going places.
See, if you read between the lines there, Dan, he's shot you down in the nicest possible way.
Shut them down, but then pick them up. Shut them down, but then pick them up and dust them down.
Oh dear, beautifully done. That's the captain in you. You're a leader, bringing everyone with you.
Be a very kind assassin, you know. Let you phone your family first.
That's my 1,000 cuts. Yeah.
Listen, we'll let you go. Thanks a mil.
Nice one. Cheers, lads.
All right, see you. Bye. Kenny Cunningham.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Now with same-day withdrawals to your Visa debit card.
News Talk Breakfast.
I just think it's very easy to beat the horn in support for the nurses. That's fine. But don't beat the horn unless you're willing to say, I'm willing to actually pay more in tax to fund that, because the money has to come from somewhere. As it is at the moment in Ireland, we want Scandinavian-style public services paying US-style levels of tax, and I'm sorry, it does not work, and we will be back into austerity budgets in no time at all if we keep going like this.
News Talk Breakfast with Shane Coleman and Kieran Cuddihy.
In association with AIR.
Back tomorrow from 7 on News Talk.
You should definitely call your ex at 4 in the morning. Sure, she hasn't heard from you in ages.
I think you should tell your boss exactly what you think of her. She'll appreciate your honesty.
That boa constrictor would make a great family pet. The kids will love it.
Not all advice is created equal. At financialbroker.ie, we're the experts in professional, impartial financial advice. So for advice on life insurance, pensions and investments, and everything in between, find your local financial broker at financialbroker.ie.
This is an important announcement. If you are considering buying a new car, then you need to know that Frank Keane Volkswagen are the only Volkswagen dealers in all of South and West Dublin. We have the best new car offers, including low-rate finance, high deposit contributions, scrappage eco-grants, and simply put, unbeatable deals on all new cars. Think the time is wrong? Think again. Frank Keane Volkswagen. The only Volkswagen dealers in all of South and West Dublin.
At Energia, we're the power behind all of Ireland's streetlights. And we're also the power behind the lights closer to home. From the night light beside the baby's cot to the big light in the hall. There's now big savings to be made by switching to Energia and Ireland's cheapest dual fuel bundle. Switch today at energia.ie or call 1850 300 700. Energia, the power behind your savings. EAB €1,470 based on average annual usage. 12-month contract, discounted unit rates, standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax, T's and C's and early termination fee apply. Valid from January 2019 and subject to change. Verification and T's and C's at energia.ie/EAB.
Bon Secours Hospital Dublin. If you're in need of urgent medical care for conditions such as chest pain, respiratory, bowel or stomach problems, ask your GP to refer you to the Bon Secours Medical Assessment Unit for same-day consultant opinion. You will be assessed and either admitted for further investigation and treatment or discharged with a treatment plan. The Bon Secours Hospital Dublin is covered under most insurance plans. To find out more, visit bonsecours.ie/Dublin. Bon Secours. Advanced medicine, exceptional care.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
So still Spurs 1, Dortmund 0, and Karim Benzema has scored for Real Madrid. So they're 1-0 up against Ajax this evening, 73 minutes on the clock. You may have heard over the last few weeks at various points we've had Tom Dunn in speaking to us brilliantly about his ordeal and his heart operation of late. And we had Paul Keoghan in yesterday, who was brilliant, the Paralympian, talking about suffering a stroke and how it impacted on his life. It all ties in with the Irish Heart Foundation's Show Some Heart campaign, which you can support, and we would encourage you to do so by going to irishheart.ie/donate. Poor Dan, says Colin, spinning plates in the show, firing out hot takes, typing up copy, and then Joe acquaints him with the underside of the bus in front of Kenny. Nightmare.
Yeah, don't embarrass me in front of Kenny again,
I know.
Joe. That's unbelievably... just because I'm not in a position to double down on my hot take that I instantly regretted the minute I said it. I mean, I want to sort of go back. You see, this is the difference between radio and writing. I would just go back and correct that if I got a bit of derision and be like, well, actually, I meant top 5 this season, not in actuality like the current top 5 players in the Premier League. But still,
you put it on the record.
I said it, so I should just double down and just ignore all evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, well, that's been done before.
But he should be on the short list at the end of the year for the Player of the Year award, in my view.
So Ole Gunner Solskjaer then, it was all going so well. 11 games, 10 wins, 1 draw. Incredible momentum. There was a sense of invincibility about Manchester United yesterday. Pat Nevin, who I trust above all others, made Manchester United favourites for the game last night. And, first half it wasn't so bad. It was relatively even. There's no doubting PSG looked dangerous, especially on the counter-attack at times. But United were in the game, and then injuries to Martial and Lingard prompted the introduction of Mata and Sanchez. And I was saying it to Kenny yesterday at the time, and the more I watched that second half, the more I really thought it was the case. I'd be interested to see what Solskjaer thinks if he ever got him at a very honest moment, but Lukaku was sitting there, put him on through the middle and put Rashford out wide, just to keep some pace out wide. Like, the pace on the wings has been almost the identity of what Solskjaer has done, and Mata has a lot of things, and he did get on the ball, he did create things, but he doesn't have that kind of pace, and it was noticeable that Di Maria did scamper down that touchline for the second goal, and then Sanchez is just so desperately out of form.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I think if he had those substitutions again, he might look at Lukaku through the middle and Rashford out in the touchline. Not least because there's a bit of continuity there, as in they've done that a few times under Solskjaer over the last few games. Rashford's used to being out wide and Lukaku through the middle at times, whereas suddenly you had Sanchez and Mata and Rashford. I don't know if those three have played together. Certainly not in a big game.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, we spoke about it the other day, and I mean, I will clarify, I was sort of out and about actually listening to you on the radio talking about this game, so I sort of didn't see all of it, but I was actually looking forward to the situation where it had a reasonable result going away, and then using some of that pace that you mentioned in that scenario, that second leg situation that almost we expect Spurs might be in. Like, how do you play? Yeah. But it's almost as though when the focus was at home and it was about taking control of the tie at home, that they were just found out that small bit, and it's one of those ones where you actually would have felt a 0-0, if it finished 0-0, would have been a perfectly good result. Well, with some of the attributes that they have, some of the skills that they have.
It's interesting you mentioned about taking control, because I'll play a clip of Arsene Wenger in a moment. I was listening to, he was on beIN Sports. But Solskjaer did his press conference, and he was talking here about potentially what went wrong, Ollie.
It was an even game, and it's always going to be difficult against good teams. And first half was even Steven, if you like. First goal is always going to be important, and the way we conceded it was a bit disappointing. Set piece, we shouldn't concede a goal at set piece, but we did. The second goal, that was quality by them. There was, the ground he makes up, that boy, to get in the box is for all the strikers that want to be out there, poachers, that's how to get in the box and get those 5-6 extra goals that I've been talking about, that way our strikers should try to get.
People say it's a reality check for you. Is that right? Is that fair?
Yeah, maybe you can say that, because that's the level we want to get to. We've been talking about top four. Top four is one thing, but we want to be at the top, and Man United should be at the top, and this is a top team that we played against. So, and our players today, disappointed after the game, of course, but I also think they know that we need to step up our level to get to the level we want to get to.
What was your message to the players afterwards?
Don't feel sorry for yourselves. This is something you got to learn from. This is level up from what we're used to. They were experienced. They bought some fouls, things like this. That's just part of their learning as players, because we're young. Many of our players are very young. First time Jesse and Marcus will play a proper Champions League game at Old Trafford. So learn from that. So you can't feel sorry for yourself. Look forward. We got Chelsea, Liverpool the next 2 games. So there's whoever feels sorry for themselves, they will not play probably against Chelsea.
What can you do about Alexis Sanchez? I mean, he just seems right off it at the moment.
Well, I'm not the one to do that. I can't do anything about Alexis Sanchez. He needs to, when he plays, he needs to find himself, because we know there's a quality player there.
Yeah. Solskjaer speaking there. It seems nobody can do much for Sanchez at the moment. We'll come back to that in a second. So Arsene Wenger, who you would imagine would be a good pundit, wouldn't you? Thoughtful.
Yeah.
Analytical.
But he's been a long-term pundit in France. Remember, he was a pundit at the Henry handball, I think, from what I recall.
And before, I think it might.
You'd see him in the press box, sort of.
Back to France '98
territory. Oh yeah. So he's a staple there.
Yeah. So his French television stuff, and when we were at the Euros in 2016, you would see him on the TV there as well. But I guess post Arsenal departure, he's been able to do a bit more than he might usually do. So he's popping up in various places. He was on beIN Sports on their Arabic channel, but speaking English. I don't know how the beIN thing works, but they have.
It's all over shop. Miami
everybody.
and
So Wenger was talking about this game, and it's just interesting to get his take on it. And he was talking about Manchester United losing this game ultimately in midfield. Have a listen.
In the Champions League, is an important thing is that you cannot be dominated in midfield, and the whole evening, Man United was dominated in midfield. Paris Saint-Germain played with 5 midfielders. And they never lost the ball. Manchester United could never win the ball back, and when they had the ball, they lost it very quickly because Paris Saint-Germain dominated the midfield to win the ball back, and they lost the battle there in midfield. And that's when you play at home and you cannot keep the ball, you're always in trouble. And that's what happened today. Man United looked very poor in midfield compared to the class of Paris Saint-Germain, and basically it was a little advantage for Paris Saint-Germain to play with 5 midfielders tonight and with less offensive players.
A few people have made that argument as well, that not having Neymar in the team for that game in particular was a blessing.
Yeah, you can see the argument behind it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, at Wembley, Vertonghen has just put Spurs 2-0 up.
He's just bounded forward.
Ghosted in at the back post. He's playing left wing back, so he put the cross in for Son's volley, and now he's volleyed home. Cross came in from the right. It's a brilliant volley. I mean, he's taking this fantastically well, Vertonghen.
Interesting 24 hours for Pochettino, really, isn't it? In the context of everything.
I'll admit things have swung back in his direction.
Oh, look at you now. Look at you now. The Joe-ometer is swinging back towards who won their most recent game.
I would still give it to Solskjaer under the circumstances.
You're fading a small bit. You want me to give it to Scholesy now? Oldham won the other night. How long before he brings it in? He knows the club.
Never.
No, never?
Never Scholesy.
You'd never give it to him?
Don't trust him. Not a good enough communicator.
Oh, you don't trust him?
No. Not the way I
This
do
is Joe's
Solskjaer.
hot take.
Yeah, no,
Paul Scholes,
Solskjaer for
couldn't
me
trust him.
feels right. Paul Scholes does not feel right. I thought for all his hard-hitting analysis, and it was very entertaining, especially Mourinho, it didn't get much beyond, just go and express ourselves and play football. Attack. We're united. We attack. Did you ever see Paul Scholes analyse a game and pick it apart or say something that made you think, oh, that's really interesting?
No, I take your point on that without having probably watched enough of his analysis. I like some of his honesty at times.
The honesty was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I mean,
no, I see your argument.
It was there is a difference between commentating and analysing something after it's happened, and then the ability to coach and pick it apart and pick out solutions and
true, but Gary Neville's a brilliant analyst in that regard.
Well, I still think Gary Neville would make a fine manager one day.
He'll be too busy being chairman.
Well, potentially. The Valencia thing was a bit of a mess, and he went into a toxic situation and it blew up in his face, and there were a million reasons why that went wrong. I would still, if you said to me, would you give Gary Neville the job eventually one day if he did a few things?
You would?
Well, yes, but Scholes,
You're sticking with your man now, sort of.
I'm not sort of sticking with him. I'm giving it to Solskjaer.
Not responding to his messages straight away.
No,
you're waiting time.
I've already texted him and said,
Ollie,
Ollie,
not opening the WhatsApp. You're not letting it go to the 2 blue ticks. You're just waiting. Keep them hanging.
2 blue ticks and a response saying, Ollie,
still got you.
This changes nothing. So look, Spurs 2-0. Meanwhile, Ajax have equalised against Real Madrid, which is big news from Amsterdam. So it's 1-1 between Ajax and Real Madrid. Spurs 2, Borussia Dortmund 0. Just one last thing on United I want to bring you, if that is okay. Andy Mitten was on OTBAM this morning, and we heard a question there about Sanchez. So Mitten was saying, well, have a listen. I'm not sure Sanchez is the best personality. I'm not sure how popular he was at Arsenal, and now it seems to be the same at United. Before I go to that, though, Dan.
3-0.
Pochettino, though.
Delete your previous WhatsApp message. How long have you got?
87 minutes. Yeah. Spurs 3, Dortmund 0. Dortmund have gone to pieces. I'm seeing the celebration. I haven't seen the goal yet. This is quite the turnaround. Dortmund had the better of it in the first half, the better chances. Sancho, if you're just tuning in, I mentioned earlier on, was creating bits and bobs. And now it's Spurs 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty dramatic...
It's either Vertonghen again or Son.
No, is it Llorente? I think it might be Llorente. Because Llorente has come off the bench. I was just checking because it was 18.
We're seeing here it's a corner.
Yeah.
And it's flicked on by Llorente.
Yeah, he replaced Lucas Moura pretty much a minute ago. Right. 85th minute introduction. Wow. And yeah, corner kick, almost his first touch. And he sticks it away, 3-0.
Okay, there you go, Spurs. Wow. So yeah, look, Andy Mitten here on Alexis Sanchez and what's going wrong at United.
I met him for the first time in 2011 when he joined Barcelona. I met him on the day that he signed because I was at the training ground to interview Iniesta. And I knew at the time that United wanted him. And I also knew that his second choice was United and City was his third choice. But he went to Barca, you can't blame him for that. And he was a good player at Barca. He had a very simple job, which was get the ball to Lionel Messi. If you have to beat a man and do that. And he was an honest player. He trained very well, he worked very hard, and he's still doing that at Manchester United, but it's just not coming off for him. And he does look to be a player who is in decline. And it's frustrating to see, and sometimes players just don't work out at a club. Angel Di Maria is a perfect example. But Di Maria down tools by the March of his first season. He wasn't happy. His personal circumstances were not great. Sanchez, well, I mean, he's split from his long-term partner. That's not been ideal for him either. And he's not hugely popular in the dressing room, but he's working really hard. He really is professional. I do still think there's life left in that footballer. But whether we're going to see it at Manchester United, the more this goes on, the more the poor form goes on, the more I doubt it.
Andy, what odds do you put it at this point that Ole Gunner Solskjaer will be the manager over the summer and into next year?
If you really pushed me and said, will he be manager, yes or no, I'd say yes, but the decision has not been made yet, and it doesn't need to be made yet. And if he loses against Chelsea and then against Liverpool, the doubts will really surface and people will say, well, where's his experience? But if I'm judging him after the 12 games so far with 10 wins, 1 draw and 1 defeat, he's done exceptionally well. He's hugely popular. He's lifted the mood around the club incredibly, not just among the players and the fans, but among the staff as well. He has been a ray of light after the misery of Jose Mourinho, and I'd love him to become Manchester United manager. But he'll be judged by results. If United get beat 5-0 in Paris and get beat at home to Liverpool and get knocked out the FA Cup, his bank of credit will take some massive knocks, just as Jose Mourinho started a year ago when Mourinho went into that Sevilla game, fans were happy with him. They were happy that he'd signed a new contract extension. And when he lost that with a really poor performance in both legs from United, that's when the doubt started. So what United need is a plan. They're looking for a director of football. They're going to appoint a director of football. That's all happening separately from whoever the next manager is going to be. And I'd love to think that the club has got a longer-term plan to use the vast resources that they've got, because they've not been using them to the best of their ability in recent years. United have been massively underperforming.
So it was interesting there, he did reference the fact that Sanchez is training very hard, but he's not popular in the dressing room.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was overly popular at the end of his time at Arsenal either. There was much hand-waving on the pitch and washing of hands, I think, publicly, and saying, I'm trying so hard, look at this mob. And often he would go and do the eye-catching pressing on his own. You know, you press a goalkeeper as if to say, look at me. And it never looked part of a plan. I think it was just actually demonstrating which he wanted and how hard he was working. And I think the Arsenal players resented that as time went on.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that sort of posturing always will cause you difficulty. I know there was some more sympathetic stuff written recently about how he'd struggled to settle in the area. I think he had a breakup, a high-profile breakup.
Yeah, and Andy Minton mentioned that.
You know, and all those issues. I always thought with Sanchez there was a danger that he was just a bit burnt out because he played so much football.
Definitely a possibility.
Through, you know, those international commitments with Chile through the summers and stuff. But I think that looks to be a simplistic explanation now, to be honest. And there seems to be more personality-driven angle to it as well as like any physical-driven aspect to it. I mean, if you're mentioning that he's training well, it's different to a story of a guy who's gone. You know, you often hear people, you know, talking about someone's legs being gone or they're not moving in the same way before, and it does seem to be more unhappiness rather than sort of a rapid deterioration. You know, it wouldn't shock me if he went somewhere else and started sort of performing in a different setup. I mean, sometimes you just get off in the wrong foot of the place and you can never get back from that.
It's very hard to know with Sanchez. I think there is a possibility he has gone a little bit, actually.
Yeah, that's possibly true. I mean, that would be my initial feeling.
Yeah.
That he's not the player he was.
Yeah, that's my sense. I'd be surprised if he goes somewhere else and lights it up. So he's basically been playing since the age of 16. There's the travel over to South America all the time, and Chile were obviously involved in quite a number of summers. And you couple that with the fact that he was, to his credit, obsessive about playing every game. Refused to take a rest, and in those games then would run more than everybody else, and he was top of all these charts for about 4 or 5 years running. I think all of that combined takes a bit of a toll.
Of course, I mean, it's natural that it would take its toll, but again, you are listening to people who have a sort of good insight into what is going on in the camp. So if you're not happy or not liked or whatever the scenario might be, that's going to make it worse, make you more lethargic in some ways.
No, it's true. Asensio has scored for Real Madrid. So it went 1-0 courtesy of Benzema. Ajax equalised, and now in the 87th minute, Marco Asensio has put Real Madrid back 2-1 up. And meanwhile at Wembley, couldn't really have gone better for Spurs. They're into added time, and it's 3-0.
Off the ball on News Talk.
Electric power, reliable and SUV styling. No wonder the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV is Ireland's most popular plug-in hybrid.
Football Index is reinventing football betting. You can buy and sell the world's top players. Their value may go up and down, but it's not over with the final whistle like a regular bet. Football Index reinventing football betting.
Start building your portfolio today at footballindex.co.uk or download the app now. New customers only, minimum deposit and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
Class, listen up. Mental maths. If the school won €50,000, how could we spend it? Sean?
A new playground, rugby balls, or a rugby pitch on the moon.
Why there?
Plenty of space.
Spend €30 in Aldi and collect Irish rugby stickers for your primary school's chance to win €50,000 for playing facilities. Aldi, official supermarket of the IRFU. Full details at aldi.ie/play rugby. Promotion open from the 28th of January to the 7th of April 2019.
At Energia, we've always been the power behind bigger savings for small businesses. But want to know the secret to even bigger savings? Come direct to us. Call 1850 363 744 or visit energia.ie/business. Energia. the power behind even bigger savings. Standard terms and conditions apply.
More affordable and cleaner than a diesel. No wonder the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV is Ireland's most popular plug-in hybrid.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back. So it's gone full time at Wembley, Dan. Finished 3-0 to Spurs.
Looking pretty good.
Meanwhile, Dan is bang on about Son being in the top 5. Hazard, he says, Chelsea aren't even in the top 4. Son is keeping Spurs in a title race they shouldn't be in.
I think...
It should be noted, the texter wished to remain anonymous. Who was it?
Don't know who it was.
Okay.
My parents are out tonight.
Name your top 5 Premier League players.
Well,
in no particular order.
Okay, but in this season just gone, he's been in the top 5 performing, definitely.
Okay, name your top 5 performing Premier League players this season.
This season?
Yeah, go. In no particular order. Son.
In no particular order.
Well, you have Son in there, we know that.
In no particular order. Aguero.
Okay, I'll agree with you on that. Can I nudge you towards Van Dijk?
Virgil van Dijk, of course, absolute certainty.
Is Salah in your top 5?
I think there's sort of a consistency of delivery. See, I'd love to go, like, De Bruyne to me is the best player in the Premier League.
We're talking this season, as
you said.
Okay, I think Salah. Are you having Salah in on this season's form?
Yeah, I think he's done a fair bit. He's actually done a fair bit.
Okay, Salah's in there. Any other? Robertson, surely.
Is that full back? I mean, Matt Doherty has been mentioned in places as well.
Is he in your top 5 performing?
I'm not so sure about that.
Robertson isn't.
In the top 5 this season?
If we're talking underrated, Robertson.
Okay, you're basically. This is one of these scenarios where you're asking me, but you're telling me yours as we go along.
I don't want you.
Why am I even here for this?
I don't want you to give your top 5.
I'll just walk out if you want.
And for it to be lambasted, and you to go, I forgot about Robertson. You're allowed to discount Robertson.
Yeah, there's no one from Arsenal that I'm putting into that list. I'm trying to think.
Anyone from Chelsea?
I mean, Sterling has been good at times this year.
Plays for Man City.
I know that. Yes, I'm aware of this.
Sterling. Is Sterling not in your top 5?
I think Sterling would be one. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, this season, on the basis of this season, I think Sterling's will probably be in there. Yeah. He's been better than Sané. He's been better than Mahrez. He's been better than, Silva and De Bruyne have been out at times, particularly De Bruyne.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Sterling's been amazing.
I think Sterling probably has to be in the
Fernandinho?
list. Oh yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. What? I don't understand.
Fernandinho's very important. But I bump him in ahead of. But I'm not. Fernandinho's ahead of Robertson.
Okay, but where were we? How many do we have? We had Son, we had Van Dijk.
Yeah, we've got Aguero.
We had Aguero.
We had Salah. We had Salah. And we have Sterling. Would I bump out Salah and stick in Fernandinho? I mean, maybe Salah on the basis of this season alone. I don't know.
Okay, go on.
I mean, this is just wonderfully, I reserve my right to change my opinion at any time.
No, that's fine.
You can't have 3 Man City players in there. You have to have Salah in there probably.
But then you're in
Sterling goes to 6.
No, that's not.
Put him at 6.
Sterling's been better than Son.
It's the 5 aside. You got, listen, take your bib, stand to the side. We'll bring you in shortly.
Didn't take long to deconstruct your hot take.
Yeah, it wasn't a hot take. Not everything's a hot take. Not every opinion is a hot take.
Lukewarm take.
It was, it was mild. A mild.
So we finished up at Wembley, 3-0 Spurs, and it's just finished up in Amsterdam, 2-1 to Real Madrid away to Ajax. So that's a good result for Real Madrid. Final thoughts, Dan? We're pretty much done. We'll park Declan Rice for
tomorrow. We move on
from tomorrow onwards.
I mean, Kenny's sentiments there were accurate enough. We just have to deal with what we have and hope that the next Irish superstar to play in the Premier League is actually Irish.
Okay. Tomorrow morning, OTBM is pretty stellar. They will have Kieran Donaghy on the show. Also, coming live from Christchurch, they will have Ronan O'Gara discussing what's next for Ireland after the win in Murrayfield. And then here tomorrow, John Giles will be in, as will Kevin Kilban. Tom Dunn on the way. Good luck.